Welcome to Phrasal Verb Practice. This is the place to learn real English, one phrasal verb at a time. My name is Marissa, and I'll walk you through this learning journey. Hi all, wishing you a great day. We're going to explore and work on the phrasal verb cut down. So let's start by talking about what cut down means. This phrasal verb has two very common uses, and the context usually makes it clear which one we mean. First, when we say cut down, we often mean reducing something, doing less of it than before. For example, I'm trying to cut down on sugar. We need to cut down on spending. He's cutting down on late nights. The idea here is that you're not stopping completely, you're just lowering the amount. Now, there's another way we use cut down. When we say cut down in a physical sense, we mean making something fall by cutting it. Most of the time, this is used for trees. For example, they cut down the old tree. The workers cut the tree down yesterday. Several trees were cut down during cleanup. So the core idea of cut down is making something smaller or removing it. Sometimes that's about quantity. Other times, it's physical. Now, just to connect this to other languages for a moment, in Spanish, it's like reducir or talar. In French, réduire or abattre. In Portuguese, reduzir or cortar. In Italian, ridurre or abbattere. In German, reduzieren or fällen. In Japanese, herasse or kiritaos. And in Chinese, jianshao or katao. So when do people usually use cut down? People use cut down when they want to be healthier, when they want to save money, when something feels like too much, or when they're talking about cutting or removing something physically. Let's hear a few clear examples to bring it all together. She's trying to cut down on coffee. We should cut down on unnecessary costs. He decided to cut down on screen time. They cut down the tree behind the house. The storm cut down several power lines. Now let's talk a little about how we actually use cut down in a sentence. Cut down can be inseparable or separable, depending on the meaning. When we use cut down to mean reduce something, it's inseparable. We normally use it with on, so we say, cut down on sugar, cut down on spending, cut down on working late. We don't say cut down sugar. But when we use cut down in the physical sense, it's separable, so both of these work. Cut down the tree. Cut the tree down. With pronouns, it sounds like this. Cut it down. Cut them down. And the verb form stays the same. Present, past, or participle, it's always cut down. All right, now let's practice. First, you'll listen to a short text about everyday life. Then you'll hear another one in a professional or office situation. Are you ready? Let's start. Lately, my family has been trying to make small changes without turning everything upside down. It started one morning at breakfast when we realized we were rushing every day and feeling tired all the time. That's when we decided to cut down on late nights during the week. It wasn't easy at first, but after a few days, mornings felt calmer. At the same time, I told myself I needed to cut down on sugar. I didn't stop eating dessert completely, but I stopped reaching for something sweet every afternoon. Even my kids noticed and said they wanted to cut down on snacks before dinner too. Money came up not long after that. Nothing was wrong, but we wanted to be more careful. We looked at our expenses and chose to cut down on eating out. Cooking at home became part of our routine, and honestly, it turned into a nice way to spend time together. I also realized I needed to cut down on screen time. I was checking my phone constantly, even when nothing important was happening. So I started leaving it in another room at night. Once I decided to cut down on scrolling, I slept better and felt more present during the day. One weekend, my dad came over to help in the yard. There was an old tree that had been leaning for years. After checking everything carefully, we agreed it was time to cut down the tree. It felt strange watching it fall, but afterward, the yard felt more open and safer. Later that day, we talked about how interesting it was. In different ways, we had been choosing to cut down on things that weren't helping us anymore. Less stress, less noise, less rushing. What surprised me most was how natural it felt. When you cut down on something thoughtfully, life doesn't feel restricted. It feels clearer. And sometimes, like with that old tree, when you finally cut down what's been in the way, you realize how much space you've gained. Great, that was the first text. How many times did you hear the phrasal verb of the day? Now, let's move on to the second text. The conversation started in a regular Monday meeting. Nothing dramatic. Our manager shared a simple update and said the company needed to cut down on costs where possible. Not panic, not freeze projects, just make smarter choices. The first area we looked at was travel. We agreed to cut down on in-person visits when a video call would work just as well. That decision alone saved time and energy. Later that day, our manager sent a follow-up email reminding everyone to cut down on long meetings and keep discussions more focused. Within a week, teams started adjusting. My group decided to cut down on unnecessary status updates and replace them with short summaries. It made communication clearer and reduced interruptions. Personally, I realized I needed to cut down on overtime. Staying late every night wasn't helping my productivity, so I talked with my lead and reorganized my workload. I noticed similar changes across the office. One colleague mentioned she was trying to cut down on multitasking because it was slowing her down. Another team chose to cut down on rush orders by planning ahead. Small changes, but they added up quickly. As deadlines approached, pressure increased, but something felt different. We had learned how to cut down on distractions and focus on what really mattered. People were more present in meetings, decisions were faster, the atmosphere felt lighter. By the end of the month, results were clear. We had managed to cut down on wasted time without losing momentum. Even stress levels dropped. Looking ahead, the plan is simple. Keep refining our processes, keep communication clear, and continue to cut down on unnecessary steps that don't add value. It wasn't about doing less work, it was about working better. And learning how to cut down on the right things made all the difference. Great, that was the second text, and that's all for today. Thank you so much for following this channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.